Welcome to the podcast dedicated to all things related to England over 60s cricket. These veterans of the game, custodians of its history, who carry the game's past, define its present and prove that age is no barrier to brilliance. Legends of experience who wear the three lines with pride and still very much players to fear. I'm your host Rash Mahmood, and this is Willows to Wisdom, where cricket's wisest voices take centre stage. Hello and welcome to a brand new podcast that covers all things relating to the England over 60 cricket team. My name is Rash Mahmood and I'm the official commentator for the team. It's a role which I thoroughly enjoy and which has seen me cover the team's progress over the past couple of years with World Cup matches, Grey Ashes series, international matches home and abroad, which have taken me from Saltburn to Sydney, from Bradford to Benalla, from Cheadlehume to Chennai and a host of other places in between, covering the game I love with players who are quite simply an inspiration. So for this, our maiden episode, no pun intended, here is what's coming up on the show. Been an early start to the season for some, with an England's line tour to Chennai at the end of January to play in the India National Over 60 tournament. Was it a success? Well, we'll review the tour and get the thoughts of some of the players who were out there. With the World Cup due to be hosted in Toronto, Canada in August this year, preparations are already in full swing for this prestigious tournament. I'll be speaking to the England team manager, the self-proclaimed mayor of Teesside and legend in his own lunchtime, Paul Bradley, to get his thoughts on the tournament and what he wants to see from England and the England lines this summer, and what lies further ahead for both teams. Loughborough University was a setting for a two-day meet-up with the great and the good of England's over 60 cricket present, and myself and Harrison Burridge, the England social media manager, were there. I'm not sure which of the two categories we fall into, but we managed to grab a word with some of the players to get their thoughts about the upcoming season. We'll take a look at the upcoming summer schedule as it stands so far, and we'll also try and answer some of your questions. So, let's get started. Well, the season for some is still a few weeks away, but a number of England players have been in action over the winter, namely those selected to represent the England Lions in Chennai, India, as part of the India Over 60 National Championships. Now, it's difficult to know what to expect from the Over 60 Indian teams, but the squad travelled to India with some notable names being included, namely Messrs Mel Hussain, Phil Deakin and Nick Gaywood, all stalwarts of the England setup over the past few years. Now, it was slightly puzzling to see them included in the tour party, but their experience of playing in India for England in Chennai at the 2024 Over 60 World Cup would surely have been a bonus to the squad as a whole. There were also opportunities for those players introduced last summer into the line setup, including bowlers Vince Mulholland and Chris Baumer, and batters Martin Ford, Ian Barton, Phil Hilson and Zahir Mohammed, to name a few, who, having played well against the three touring sides to the UK, the West Indies, Australia and the USA, gained just reward and recognition for their individual and collective performances against international opposition during the past summer. Now, a pipe opener against the VCR Chairman's 11 gave the squad a run out and produced a comfortable victory by 117 runs. And in truth, the 5 further games that the Lions played to cement their standing as tournament winners, going undefeated, didn't really stretch the squad, winning by 79 runs, 114 runs, 7 wickets, 80 runs and finishing the tour with a 9-wicket victory. But, that being said, a lot of the players were touring for the first time and their exposure to cricket in vastly different conditions to England will hopefully stand them in good stead going forward. There were some notable performances, firstly in the batting department, with unbeaten centuries from Mel Hussain and Nick Gaywood, with 5 other players passing the 50-run mark during the tournament. Mel Hussain finished as the leading run scorer for England with 243 runs scored, closely followed by Phil Hilson, who looked calm, assured, composed and determined in scoring 238 runs in his 5 innings, only being dismissed once. Ian Barton, Neil Jackson and Nick Gaywood also scored well, and once again it proved that England have a wealth of batting talent at their disposal. In the bowling department, well, the star of the tour by a long stretch was Lee South, who ended the tournament with 15 wickets, with a best of 5 for 25 versus the VCI Chairman's 11 in the opening match. There were good contributions also from Chris Baumer, who bagged 4 for 25 in one game, and Vince Mulholland, as well as good support from Mel Hussain and Phil Deakin. Overall, the bowling was tight and accurate and was backed up with some excellent fielding. Now, my spies tell me that the England Lions will be invited back to take part in future India National Over 60 Championships, which gives players a fantastic opportunity to tour and play international cricket. Jason Corn led the team superbly well, as he had done the previous summer in some excellent Lions performances, and going forward, it will be interesting to see if he keeps on in this particular role. Well, as I said at the top of the show, we managed to catch up with some of the people who were involved in the tour when we got together for this 2-day meet up at Loughborough. Here are some of the players' thoughts. Vince Mulholland, very good to speak to you. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Rash, and good to speak. Just to give an overview of the India tour, yeah, the trip was unbelievably eye-opening, eye-watering, fun, fantastic group of guys and girls that we went with, all gelled superbly well, and a lot of the people didn't know each other when we got on the plane. So, 10, 12 days later, we're going back, and I think a lot of memories and fantastic experience that we all thoroughly enjoyed.
Just talking about the pitches out there, obviously, to go out to India, completely different playing conditions to what you're used to down at Essex, I would have thought.
The wickets were probably the best I've ever seen. They were as flat as you could ask for. The batsmen were licking their lips, and the bowlers were not changing very fast. We had to find ways of bowling, and so we did. Interestingly, before we sat down in this room overlooking this wonderful, wonderful pitch at Loughborough, it's very interesting what you said to me about the type of delivery that you were bowling, bearing in mind that the pitches were flat. There wasn't going to be much assistance through the air or off the seam as such. Can you just tell the listeners what you actually came up with? I mean, 3 for 14 speaks for itself. Yeah, you're right. We knew pretty much that the grounds were going to be flat. 3 or 4 of us had netted during the winter to get ourselves prepared. Done it a fair few times at county and club level, bowling cross seam. And so I quickly went to that in India, and that last spell clearly worked. And visibly you could see the slight variations of bounce and the odd one skidding on, and that put a bit of doubt in the batsmen's minds, and really it worked on the day.
That's all part of the game. I understand that the England Lions are going to have a recurring invite to the India Over 60s National Championships. In your view, speak openly and honestly, is it a good thing for the Lions to go out there against what I would consider to be some very good players in different teams, but the standard of the teams is probably below the top-notch county teams that you play here in the UK?
Yeah, that's probably fair. In fairness, we probably didn't know what we were going to walk into in this particular tournament. So there were several players in each team that were very good, and they will make up a very good Indian squad for the World Cup. From a personal point of view, I would go again, absolutely go again. And if you throw in the fact we played 6 games in 8 days, you've got to be able to get through that as well. But if you asked all of the group, would they go again? I think they would.
Vince, great pleasure to talk to you. Vince, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
So interesting to hear Vince's thoughts process about bowling and how he adapted to the conditions. And we stay with the Essex connection as Phil Hilson joined me. Phil, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Rash, for inviting me.
Yeah, good to see you. Listen, you must think that this batting lark, it's easy. 238 runs, out just the once. You look very, very calm, very assured, and different type of innings you played there, which was really impressive.
Thank you, firstly. Yeah, I was very pleased with the way things turned out, the performance side of things. Having said that, I've worked very hard in the winter. I knew I had some challenges with technique and a bit of mental approach to batting.
Yep.
I've got some good people around me, the likes of Mel Hussain. I spend a lot of time with the nets. He's blunt but he's very honest with you. So
blunt's one way of describing him.
You know if you're doing it well, and you know if you're not doing it so well. So it's been very beneficial. Look, the tracks were great to bat on, but yeah, look, I was happy with how I've been seeing it. I was happy with the outcome. So yeah, if I've put my hand up and that's made a positive impression, then I'm delighted. you've got to keep it going, haven't you? That's the
You do. Competition for places
Absolutely.
is mightily fierce, and with a curtailed season this summer due to the World Cup in Toronto, the chances to impress are few and far between.
If it turns out for the Lions that is an annual event,
Yeah.
I think it's a great experience, because the wickets, although they're good, they're so different to British wickets.
Yes.
So to learn your skills and adapt the way you bat, and for bowlers to adapt the way and find ways to bowl aggressively but contain runs at the same time, it's a real challenge, and that's what we want. You want to be challenged, you want to get better.
And finally, you mentioned that it's going to be possibly an annual thing. I believe that's the case. A lot of the games I watched, there were 2 or 3 good players in each of the teams, but the overall standard, you play for a very, very powerful county, of course. Where would you rank them in the county championship level?
They were better batting sides than they were bowling sides. They were better batting and bowling than they were fielding. They only play 20-20 games. They don't play 45 over games. They strike the ball beautifully. They love hitting boundaries. They live to hit their boundaries, but they'll turn threes into ones, and there's no rotation there, because it's not what they do in their normal game. So in that respect, the comparison's a tough one, because we play 45 over cricket, and there's a set of skills and a way to bat at different phases in your innings. An expat group that went out, the invitational team, that was mainly Southern Counties players, Middlesex and Sussex and Surrey and so on, they finished second in the tournament. So I think that shows that our county standard, the skill sets, the competition is good. And then for the Indian-born or Indian-qualified players to go out and finish second shows you that they've still got some way to go.
Phil, thank you ever so much.
Thank you,
Thanks
Rash.
for your time.
Appreciate it.
Cheers. So we've heard from one of the bowlers, we've heard from one of the batters. What about the guy behind the stumps? Well, I managed to hook up with Kent's finest, Simon Routh, as he made his way to Loughborough. Routh, thanks for joining me.
No problem.
Well, happier memories for you this time in Chennai than 2024. If you just want to let the listeners know, in the World Cup, what exactly happened?
I played the warm-up game against India, and the first game against New Zealand I was not very well, and I remained not well for quite a long time really, and managed to play the last World Cup game against South Africa.
So your experiences this time, Ralph, much, much better. I mean, I was watching from afar, but you looked in good touch, good nick.
My keeping was good. Batting wise, in the first game where I got a few runs, took a while to get in, and timing wasn't there, but the longer I was in, the easier it became. It did help that Nick Gaywood was flying it to all parts, of course, and I could just watch him bat, just get one, and took all the pressure off. And in the second game, I batted, managed to get going early, and felt comfortable.
Good. The boys were telling us, Vinny and Phil, their first experience of obviously touring with England and playing in India, but those pictures are something else.
Oh, it was amazing. The grounds, the wickets, the facilities, amazing. The wickets best, well, if not the best, but they were, all the grounds amazing. It's a shame that the World Cup could not have been there 2 years ago, because you had 4 or 5 grounds of all amazing facilities.
And that was all at Pondicherry?
All at Pondicherry. They had a number of grounds all around, very large boundaries, big facilities. You would have loved it, because you could have gone up into the air behind the bowler's arm and looked from down. It was quite a long way down. You're not scared of heights.
No,
there's no health and safety in India. So
from my armchair, it looked good.
Yeah.
It looked a professional performance, Ralphie, and of course it was. What's your impression of the standard? I've asked the two boys, so I mean, we're coming to this blind, so you don't know what they've said.
Yeah.
So it's your honest opinion
of India.
Yeah.
They obviously have some quality players, and if those quality players come off, they will be a force in the World Cup. Have they got enough? Could be one question, but their fitness is going to be an issue. They may do well in the first couple of games because they're fit, but the longer the competition goes on, it appeared to me that they would struggle. They didn't run particularly well between the wickets. I think that's something they've got to improve of. and we every time we hit the ball in the outfield, because it was such a big ground, we were running twos comfortably, jogging twos as opposed to putting us under a bit of pressure. So I think they've got a couple of areas to work on, but they have a very good core strength, and yes, they could surprise people.
And going forward, Simon, I understand that there are going to be future invites for the England Lions to play in that over 60s national championship. In your opinion, is it a good idea?
I think it's a very good idea. I don't know, because that's obviously above my pay grade, but it's got to be good, hasn't it? It's particularly for the Lions, because it's a good way of seeing how people tour. It's a good way to see how people play under pressure. People bat in places they're not used to, and fielding places that you can. It's a good way of introducing people into the main team, I suggest.
Super stuff. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. I'm glad you were relatively injury-free. Ralph, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Rash. Cheers.
Right, so that's 3 members of the Lions team that toured India for the national championship spoken to. It's my great pleasure to have alongside me the Sheriff, the big man himself, the Lions skipper, Jason Court. JC, thank you for being here.
Thanks very much for
Thanks
inviting
for talking to me. Listen, we talked last year, many good moments for the Lions. You led them superbly well. Captaining your team is one thing, but captaining your team, foreign soil, to go undefeated in another championship, you must be a very proud man indeed.
I was, yeah. It was a great tour, first Lions tour overseas. We had a really good, strong nucleus squad, and conditions were excellent if you're a batter. Wickets were really flat.
Yeah.
It was as expected in India, mid-30s, pretty humid at times, and the outfields were like lightning. So the facilities were fabulous, fabulous, and they really looked after us as you would expect on Indian soil.
One of the things that a lot of people were commenting about, and certainly mentioned to me, was the inclusion of a few stalwarts of the team in the last few years, and some, dare I say it, senior players, the likes of Mel Hussain, Phil Deacon and Nick Gaywood. Obviously part of the management team and the selection committee for the Lions. What was the thinking behind that? Was it just because they'd been there and done it and seen it and you needed some balance in the squad, or was there any other reason?
From my take on it, basically we asked people who were available out of the broader squad, so out of the England side and out of the broader squad that had played Lions in the summer, for availability. Yeah. And there were quite a few Lions who weren't available to travel, and then we looked at trying to get, as you always do on foreign soil or when you go on an overseas tour, to try and get a balance of bowlers, batters, people who are all-rounders, good fielders. And effectively, we were a few bowlers short. And so we were mindful. We looked at, albeit some others had put their hands up from what we would call the first team, we were short of a few bowlers. And so it helped us balance up the overall squad. And they were available. And so we decided, well, we'd take those because they'll strengthen the squad. There was nothing more or nothing less than that. There were some key Lions players from the summer who unfortunately were not available for one reason or another, and we decided, right, they'll fit in nicely, and I knew I could either bat, bowl, and obviously field them, and so they did strengthen the squad. But it wasn't deliberate at the outset. That was just around availability.
Finally, Jason, going forward, very successful summer you had last year with the Lions. It was a real pleasure to watch you in action, particularly the 3 games against the Australians. Arguably the first 2, shade unlucky. You probably could have come away with 2 victories, but you acquitted yourself very well, and so did your team. Going forward, how do you see the Lions progressing? A curtailed summer this year, obviously with the World Cup. What would you like to see from the Lions?
Work in progress. It's work in progress. And when I first played for England 3 years ago and went to the Caribbean, the Lions side, if you looked at it, was predominantly guys who had been around the England setup for a while. There has been a shift in terms of, and I think it's the right way forward, we're removing feast. Everybody's getting older. We need to replace us with not necessarily younger people, but younger people who can do the job better than some of the older people. And that's natural progression. And I think last summer showed that. We've got people put forward via the counties. We gave exposure to a number of people who then went on to play in the first team, the likes of Timor.
Timor, Neil Brathwaite.
Mel Dawson. And those sort. And that's the way it should be. There'll be opportunities this summer coming up, albeit we've not got any foreign national sides coming, but we've got some strong sides from Western Australia and from Victoria, the Geelong side. And so we expect there will be some tests. And we've got a few less games this summer, but hopefully we'll carry on progressing and improving and giving people exposure and experience to say, are you good enough to be playing in the first team?
Super. Jason, there's a crowd around us. Pub is beckoning, so thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure to speak to you.
Yeah,
so that's the line skipper, Jason Corn. So that concludes our catch up with some of the players who are on the England's line tour to India for the India Over 60 National Championships. So many thanks to Vinny, Phil, Simon and Jason for speaking to me at Loughborough. It's really good to get the insights of the players, and I think from their comments we can say that it was a thoroughly enjoyable and productive tour, and that future invites to participate in the tournament would be a good idea. Now, apologies for the sound quality in some of those interviews. Loughborough was a very busy working environment, and finding space, and more importantly a quiet space, was at a premium, as alongside the England Over 60 players in the Performance Centre, we had players from the England men's team being put through their paces, with the likes of Ben Stokes, Harry Brook, Will Jacks and Gus Atkinson going through net sessions and meetings with sports science personnel and associated fitness and dietary coaches, as well as a very dedicated team of ground staff who were constantly mowing the outfield. So I hope the background noise present hasn't spoilt your enjoyment of the interviews. Well, also at Loughborough was my colleague Harrison Burridge, the England social media manager. He caught up with a number of players during the net sessions and just asked them the simple question: what are you looking forward to this summer?
Oh, getting fit again and being able to play a game of cricket.
Proving myself over and again, because when you get to 60 you never know how you're going to come out the following season. So I just hope I can do as well as I did last year, and if not better.
An injury-free season, really, and great time ahead for both the England side and the Lions.
Seen some new players, I think. We've got some new players here today, and I think if we can get some more new players, we've got some more to look at tomorrow, and then developing the lines even more. Of course, we're looking forward to August World Cup, but the Lions have still got part to play in that, and I'm looking forward to bringing some new players through into the Lions.
Oh, just another season of cricket. At my age, 61, every season you think it could be your last. So just looking forward to playing for the county, club games, and of course the setup with England as well.
Well, it's another summer. We haven't got the touring sides coming over, and the whole summer's all about getting to a World Cup and give the best chance of doing really well in that. So I'm just looking forward to seeing this new crop, working out a squad, getting the Lions rejuvenated, playing some cricket, and giving it the best shot we can.
Opportunity, really. I play for a great county. We've got a great side. We strengthened this year, so looking for a good season with Essex. I've been fortunate to get involved in the England senior setup as well, so I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, I get to continue that through the summer, and I can play with some of these fine guys that I'm training with at the moment.
Playing a load of cricket in the sunshine with a load of guys who enjoy playing cricket with, enjoy it and be competitive as well. But I just love being out in the sunshine playing cricket, really.
I'm just coming back from a little Achilles tear injury, which has taken a fair bit of time to get over. So first and foremost, just to be back fit and healthy on the cricket pitch would be a good start.
Prepare, hopefully, for the challenges ahead of World Cup and potential tours thereafter. New group of players, so players coming in. Interesting to see what that's about, and staying fit and healthy, having a full season.
Playing cricket to start with. I've had a good break in the winter, and ready to get outdoors and play cricket. Really looking forward to it.
But getting back to playing the county stuff. It'll be my 5th year catching in Herefordshire. Probably should be playing the over 60s, but I'm still in the over 50s. Maybe I'll make the move next year, I don't know.
Back in it with Suffolk, and obviously wanting to see how far I can go with England set up.
Well, that's the roundup from Loughborough, folks. Many thanks to all the players who took time to speak to myself and Harrison, and we look forward to speaking to them throughout the summer. Now, here on the Willows to Wisdom podcast, we want you to be involved. If you'd like to send a question in or have a comment or observation about over 60s cricket, then you can get in touch a number of ways. In the episode notes, you will find a link to SpeakPipe. Click on the link, it's completely free to use, and we will read your message out on the show. Don't forget to leave your name and where you are contacting us from. But if hearing your voice on the podcast isn't for you, then please send us an email. Our email address is willowstowisdompodcast@gmail.com. That's willows to wisdom podcast @gmail.com, and that's all one word. And talking about getting in touch, you can also comment or message us via the England social media platforms. And to run you through where you can find and access them, here's the England social media manager, Harrison Burridge, with further details.
Have you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to keep a closer eye on the England 60s team's progress? Then open your favourite social media app and search for England 60s Cricket. You'll be able to find the team on X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and YouTube. Hit follow and have a front row seat to the summer's cricket.
Thank you, Harrison. So please do, folks, follow us on all the social media platforms and via the SpeakPipe link, or indeed email to get in touch with us here at the show. We really do look forward to hearing from you. Now, it may surprise you to know that the England over 60 team do not receive any direct funding from the ECB. We are reliant on the goodwill of the players and the continued support of sponsors. So if you'd like to be involved in sponsorship, get in touch and we will pass your details on to Paul Bradley, who will be more than happy to discuss what your sponsorship will bring. That said, our work with the over 60s continues due to the generous, loyal and continuing support of our main sponsors, those being Stonehill Sports, Sporter Tours, NV Play and Clean Clad. On behalf of the England management team and everyone connected in and around the team, thank you for your continuing support. So the summer schedule for the England and England Lions is out. It's a compact schedule due to the World Cup in Toronto in August. Whilst that's the focus for England, to try and go one better than they did in Chennai in 2024, there is still a lot of cricket to be played before the squad departs across the pond. Now, last year saw the implementation of the whole England squad being announced shortly after the trial games had taken place. Now, if memory serves, the initial list contained 33 players, which at the time seemed a large number. But with last summer seeing 3 touring sides visit the UK, those being the West Indies, Australia and the USA, injuries, form and availability were no doubt factors in the selectors' mind when they announced the squad players for the summer. Now this year doesn't have as many fixtures, so will the same criteria and squad numbers apply? We'll have to wait and see. So on to the fixtures confirmed so far, with the caveat, folks, and for those of you listening who have been in and around the England and England Lions teams over the past couple of years, you'll be all too familiar with this phrase. Everything is subject to change. Now, the first competitive action for the players will be on the 30th of April at Ticknall Cricket Club in Derbyshire, where an inter-squad match will take place. Now, historically, this match is 12 or 13 aside for the players selected by the committee. These players are in the forefront for selection for England and the Lions. Following that, the selection committee will publish their squads for the summer, and there won't be a delay in this because 2 weeks after the inter-squad game, England and the England Lions are in action, with their first international matches of the season scheduled to take place against Scotland. England first up at Martin Cricket Club on the 14th of May, and the Lions taking on the same opposition the next day at Seaton Carew. Now last year, Scotland played at Saltburn against England, and it was the returning Tony Birbeck who smashed an unbeaten 130 not out to leave England on 299 for 4. That game saw debuts for Steve Small and Sanjay Berry. Now historically, Scotland had failed to get anywhere near England's totals, but they really have improved, and finishing on 240 for 7 was a valiant effort. The next day, Scotland took on the Lions at Seaton Carew, posting 263 for 5, with the standout innings being the 73 not out by Timur Alam on debut. In reply, Scotland fell agonisingly short, losing by 7 runs in the end. Now those two matches highlighted the improvement made by Scotland over the past couple of years, and the final Scotland match against the Lions during September in the Tri-Nations can be overlooked. They're a very damp wicket and outfield, contributing to a low-scoring game. Now, Scotland have some excellent players who are getting better with more exposure to international cricket, and I'm sure they will give both England sides a good test. They have some dangerous batters in Tony Bennett and Graham Garden at the top of the innings, both excellent stroke makers. And in the middle order, the likes of Cam Glasgow and Bob Angus can score very quickly. So England and the Lions will have to play well. Last year saw both sides field experienced players alongside debutants, and I expect that both these upcoming games will do the same. Now, just over 2 weeks later, a further inter-squad match is pencilled in to take place on the 28th of May at the always welcoming and very picturesque ground at Oakham in Staffordshire. Now this is a fallback fixture, folks, should the inter-squad game at Ticknall not take place, or if the committee decides they want an extra look at one or two players. Next up, it's the Lions. Well, they're scheduled to play the UK Indians on the 11th of June, as they did last year. The venue, well, that's to be confirmed. On the 18th of June, England play their second international of the summer at Eastnor Castle against Wales. Last year, England travelled to Newport and beat Wales comfortably by 137 runs, thanks in no small part to an opening stand of 129 between the former skipper Richard Merriman and Paul Radage. Wales were very disappointing in their run chase, but they have some very talented and capable players, as witnessed by them being crowned county champions last year. If they can perform well in all three phases of the game, something they haven't done against England in the past, then I think they will run England close. Selection for this England team may give us an idea of who might be on the plane to Toronto for the World Cup in August, but those selected must perform, and perform well, as there is a wealth of talent in the over-60s brigade waiting for a chance to impress. The next day, the 19th of June, an England Lions side will travel to Brook Cricket Club to take on Australian side Geelong. Now this continues the excellent relationship built up over the past couple of years between Australia and England, with touring sides able to play against international and county teams. Last year, Western Australia had a very successful tour, and you can be sure that the visitors from Geelong will go all out to put one over on the Lions. The after-match catch-up should be a good one though. The 8th of July sees the Lions back in action at St Fagans Cricket Club, where they take on the Dragons, the Welsh second 11. Wales are an improving force in the domestic game, as I mentioned earlier, with the success in the county championship, but this gives an opportunity for those fringe players in the England Lions squad a chance to impress, and maybe gives the selection committee some food for thought. The Western Australian team are back again this summer, having enjoyed themselves last year. They take on the Lions on the 16th of July at Tame Cricket Club in Oxfordshire, where I'm sure our very own England scorer Tony Fitzgerald, whose home club it is, will be present. The 24th of July is the final game for England before departing for the World Cup, and it's probably the most highly anticipated game of the domestic summer. England will take on the England over-50s Lions at Dunmow Cricket Club in Essex, home club to England's very own Mel Hussain. Now this might give us a glimpse of who we may see moving on into the 60s in a few years' time, as well as pitting the England squad against younger and what will no doubt be a strong team. And the final fixture of the domestic summer sees the Lions take on the UK Indians at Brentwood Cricket Club on the 29th of July as part of the Brentwood Cricket Festival. So after the excesses of 2025, when the England and England Lions played 26 games between them, it's a much shorter domestic summer, and as a result, opportunities to shine are fewer and far between. Anyone harbouring hopes of being named in the squad for the World Cup in Toronto will know that they have to perform, as there is a wealth of talent and ability waiting to step in should they fail. This brings its own pressure, but to all the players who are selected this summer, congratulations in advance, play well and do the very best you can. Now this part of the show is handed over to you, our listeners, for your questions and comments, and thank you to everyone who has been in touch so far. Now I'll do my best to answer, but if I don't know, I'll go and find somebody who can. So to kick us off, our first question comes from Peter Ross in Woking, who asks, are there any plans for England to look to host the over-60 World Cup? Well, I can tell you, Peter, and it's straight from the horse's mouth, the head honcho himself, Paul Bradley, the Maltese Falcon. Now he said at the meet-up at Loughborough last week that England will be looking to submit a bid to host the 2028 World Cup. So exciting news. I've no further details on that, Peter, but that'll be great for England over 60 cricket and indeed world cricket if we can host a tournament here in England. Well, thanks, Peter. And we move on. And it's the nemesis of England over the last couple of years. Here's a question from Tony Panicasio, TP himself. He used a SpeakPipe link and asked this very simple question.
G'day, Rash. My question's a simple one. How many changes do you think there will be in the England squad for the World Cup?
Well, thanks for your question, TP. Always good to hear from you, my friend. I think England will probably take the same number of players that Australia are going to be taking, i.e. those 6 of you Australians who played in the 2024 World Cup final. I can't see England taking any more than that. There's been a raft of changes to the England team since that World Cup final. The emergence of new players coming through the Lions setup. So I think pretty much on par with yourselves, Tony. Half a dozen. And thank you for your question. And we move on. And here's a question now from the England and Yorkshire bowler, Kevin Watson. Kevin asks, how do you assess England's 60s progression since you commentated on the last World Cup in Chennai? Well, thanks for your question, Watto. I think there's been a massive change in England from what I've seen since that disappointment of the World Cup final in Chennai in 2024. One of the key areas I think England have improved markedly is in their fitness and fielding, and you have to do that if you want to compete against the very, very best in the world. And with the younger players coming through into the over 60 age group, it's just lifted everybody up. Now, of course, there's still challenges to come, but I think England are progressing on the right path. I also think that the line structure has proved hugely beneficial to the England senior team, and it puts those players who maybe thought they were shoo-ins for the teams and squads, etc., just to look back over their shoulder and know if they don't perform, then there's somebody equally as talented to take their place. So, progression, definitely. Still a long way to go though, Kev, and thank you for your question. Well, finally, folks, it's not a question as such, but I just thought I'd include it because it shows to me the interest there is in England over 60s cricket, not just here in England, but worldwide. So I'm very indebted to this gentleman who contacted us via the SpeakPipe link all the way from India. Here's his comment.
I'm Dr. Chandrasekhar from Kerala State in India. I'm really happy that you are arranging a program of like this, giving the listeners a chance to ask questions and get involved in your podcast. Thank you.
Well, that's the listener questions complete for this, the first episode, and my thanks to everybody who got in touch. Thank you to Peter, to Tony, to Kevin, and Dr. Chandrasekhar. Now, you heard earlier on in the podcast how you can get in touch with us, but just to reiterate, send us an email. Our email address is willowstowisdompodcast@gmail.com, or do what Dr. Chandrasekhar and TP did. Click on the SpeakPipe link in the episode notes, and we'll do our best to get you onto the show. My thanks to everybody for taking part. Well, for the first episode in a brand new podcast, you want to aim high, and my first guest sits right atop the over 60 tree, both domestically and internationally. He's a shy retiring gentleman who now resides in Malta, where he casts his net far and wide, keeping an eye on his England flock. He has the gentle, slightly chaotic charm of a man with a bird of prey spirit, quick to laugh at his own stumbles, steady in the way he dusts himself off, and carries a warmth that makes even his clumsiest moments feel endearing rather than wild. Now, he's been called many things in his time, but the Maltese Falcon is probably one of the more broadcastable names he is known by. He's the self-appointed mayor of the independent Republic of Teesside, and is fiercely proud of his northeast heritage. He's a Middlesbrough lad who's done very well for himself. Now, he was a more than useful club cricketer in his time, playing in his local leagues, and as time moved on, he joined the ranks of the seniors, playing first for Durham, and then playing for Lincolnshire. He's played cricket in over 20 countries, has represented Malta in T20 internationals, and has also represented Hungary in a 50-over ODI. And in addition, he was part of the victorious Tallinn Hippos team that won the Cricket on Ice Festival in St Moritz in 2025. Now, for the past few years, he has been instrumental in driving England over 60 cricket forward, and due to his very successful career as an international banker, no, that's not rhyming slang, he has contacts all over the globe, which he uses to promote and further establish the reputation of England over 60s cricket. Now, his drive and determination have not been diminished, despite some health issues in 2025, and he continues to advance the game in many ways, having recently been elected to serve on the International Masters Cricket Council. He is a fanatical Middlesbrough fan, and growing up, had the great fortune to see some of the greats at the old Ayresome Park, and he continues to follow Middlesbrough from afar at his home in Malta. He's the top dog, the big fromage, the head honcho. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome Paul Bradley onto Willows to Wisdom. So obviously football was your first love, Paul, but we're here in a cricketing sphere. So how did your cricketing adventure start?
I grew up in a little village called Norton, which is part of Teesside. Across the road from where I lived was the part of the Norton and Stockton Ancients sports complex.
Okay.
And there was 2 cricket pitches, there was 3 rugby pitches, football pitch, hockey pitches. And as kids, we used to go and annoy the groundsman by playing football in the hockey nets, and we grew up just playing, well, to be honest, we grew up playing test matches, and we used cardboard boxes as stumps.
Brilliant.
There was 4 of us. I remember vividly, one of the lads went on to win 4 minor counties medals, 2 with Durham, 2 with Hertfordshire. His brother actually played for Bedfordshire, and he plays 60s for Cheshire now, and there was one other lad who stopped, and summers with the 4 of us just playing cricket on the field, and that's where it started. So I was part of the fixtures and fittings at Norton Cricket Club for many a year.
And I take it, obviously, through your education and through your early adult life, cricket played a massive part in what you were doing as well.
Well, yes, it did. Look, in those days, we used to play cricket nearly 7 days a week. There wasn't any time off. There was plenty of cup games during the week, and then weekend you'd play Saturday cricket for your club. And then in those days, there was 2 clubs. There was Durham Hornets and there was the Doghouse. Both were friendly teams on a Sunday. Very different clientele playing for each of the teams. But we used to play on Sundays. So it just fitted in. It was a natural. And, the nets were outdoor nets. There were grass nets.
Yeah.
At one stage we had famous cricketer looking after us, our coach at the club, Chris Old.
Chris Old
was the bowling coach for all of the lads. And
Yorkshire lad. Wow.
From Middlesbrough.
Yes, from Middlesbrough. During my introduction, Paul, that you played seniors cricket, not only for Lincolnshire but for Durham as well. What were your immediate impressions when you started playing in the senior sphere? Can I put it, is that the polite term, the senior sphere?
I think it was just a fantastic opportunity, and what a great honour to be able to play for the county team.
Yeah.
A lot of us have all played schoolboy cricket, played at county under 15s, 16s, or whatever. Some have gone on to better things. But then there's always been a little bit of a gap, if you like. And I guess in my case, it was 34 years before I actually started to play for Durham at over 50s. And it was just a fantastic feeling. And I'll always remember there was a T20 game at the Riverside, Durham's ground, and at half-time during the game, they had the 50s, 60s walking around the field.
Fantastic.
And we were looking and clapping at the people, and, what a feeling, what
Absolutely.
a feeling. It also moves you further forward. Played your club cricket, and, your days in the first team are slowing down as you get older. Second team, you're helping bring the youngsters on, or the third team. But then you're back in the limelight, you're back in the first team, you're playing county cricket, and you're travelling to play against all the different counties, some of them with county players in.
Indeed. And seniors cricket is absolutely thriving in England, Paul, as we know. I think last year it was the biggest participating take-up sport in the UK. I think there's over 3,500 registered players over 60. It's a very robust and demanding county championship that we have here. So for our listeners who may not have any knowledge of how senior cricket works, what steps do they need to take to get involved? If they sit there listening to this and think, oh, actually I fancy turning my arm over, what do they have to do?
I think the easiest way, depending where they are, if they go to the website, they'll be able to see the county representative. Get in touch with them, because it doesn't matter what level or what standard you are, there will be a team that you can fit into, and they'll all welcome new players. And you're quite right, probably apart from ladies cricket, it is the fastest growing. It's so enjoyable. Every Tuesday the 60s are playing, every Wednesday the 50s are playing, the 70s playing on a Thursday. It's just growing and growing and growing.
It is indeed. Now, I mentioned in my opening, you've played cricket in over 20 countries with different playing conditions and even on a frozen lake last year in St Moritz. But what's been the biggest change that you've seen in global seniors cricket since you became involved in it? And we will touch on how you got involved in it shortly.
I think that the major change is the introduction of IMC. So International Masters Cricket is now the governing body for the 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s. So that there's a structure and there's more uniformity in the rules that we play. there's also been the introduction of World Cups, again at 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s. So there's a proper structure in place. And that's definitely helped to move things further forward.
Well, you mentioned the IMC. Well, we'll touch on that in a minute. But you are dual-hatted, so to speak. You're the England team manager, and also recently, and congratulations, been voted onto the International Masters Cricket Council. But starting with the England manager role, Paul, how did that come about for you?
Well, that came about after COVID. I'd semi-retired, retired, had a little bit of time on my hands, and I actually approached Chris Swadkin and just said that happy to help in any way with any of the tasks around seniors cricket. Didn't want to be on the committee, and just said if there's anything I can do, I have the time. This is my background, cricket CV. What can I do to help? Yeah. And Chris came back and just said, would you be able to help? Because we don't currently have an England manager. They chatted to me, sent off a CV, and there you go. It took off from there.
Fantastic, and it's a role you embrace thoroughly, and a great job you do as well. You mentioned the IMC panel and briefly touched on the roles and responsibilities. Dual-hatted, how difficult is that? Because your first commitment obviously is to England, but you've got the global seniors cricket to look after and protect as well. So is there any conflict at any point, or is it a role that you think one deserves more of my attention than the other?
No, there's no conflict. I think they actually work hand in hand, because really the IMC's governing body look after World Cups. And I think, you've been with us to a World Cup.
Yes,
again,
I have.
It's a fantastic experience.
It is.
You're meeting new friends, friendships are starting, you play hard cricket, everybody wants to win, but they work very much hand in hand. And as time goes further forward, you'll get more continuity between the countries. There's still some difference in rules between Australia and England, but it's the same game.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that's really important is that it's the sharing of best practice.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that we do in England, a lot of the other countries are now following suit, and we can share and we can help each other. We're lucky in England, we're lucky in Australia that there's a volume or a mass of people to play, and you can create an effective league structure. But when you go to some of the other countries, just purely maybe because of the size or not the depth in players, it's more difficult for them. But it's lovely to see them competing in World Cups. And look, as time goes on, the balance between the teams will become nearer and nearer.
Yeah.
And I think that will happen this year when we go to Canada.
Yeah.
I think Australia and England are always the favourites. But I've got a sneaking suspicion there's a couple of teams that are going to challenge the normal run of things this year. We'll see.
Well, I'll come on to that, because that was my next question. Obviously, the World Cup taking place in Toronto this year. Now, England obviously got to the final in 2024 and probably played their worst match of the whole tournament in that final against Australia. That we'll gloss over that. We'd obviously like to be crowned champions. But I'm going to tie you down, Paul, because we've had conversations here. We are at Loughborough, day 2, and there's been some conversations between the various players. England and Australia, yes. You've just come back from India, where you were there with the Lions. There were some very decent Indian batsmen there that I was watching on the stream. Some decent bowlers. If they can all gel together, they could pose a threat, do you think?
Oh, without a doubt. India will become a powerhouse across the board in seniors cricket. They've started at a slower pace. There's a guy called Verinder Bhumla who's starting to move things further forward. Look, I think we're probably the first England team ever to go to India. We played 6 and we won 6.
Absolutely.
We played in their national championship. So it was the 4 zonal teams, and it was a team of what they call global expats, because there's clearly a lot of Indians travelled around the world. So this was really their 80 best over 60s cricketers playing against our England Lions. And they were all playing for a place in the India World Cup team. And you're quite right. In each of those 5 teams, there were probably 5 quality players. And there's certainly a few of those players who would have got into the England team, no problem at all. I think if Verinder finds the right captain to blend them together, I think they're going to be a challenge for not only England, but any team they face. I also think, given the nature of the wickets and the conditions in Canada, I think Canada will pose 1 or 2 problems. Pakistan depends on the team they bring, and if they've got a full team out, they're always going to be strong. New Zealand are knocking on the door. And I also think it's become, I think the wickets and conditions in Canada will be a little bit more of a leveller than we've seen when we were in India. So I think, to be honest, any of the countries could beat each other, and it won't be as straightforward or a walk in the park or a monopoly for England and Australia. We're both going to be after on our wits to make sure that we get to that final.
Which is what we want, of course. So moving away from the international thing, Paul, I know that one of the innovations you're implementing here, or trying to implement, and you've talked about it today, is that of intermediate age groups, for example, over 65 cricket. What's the general thinking behind that, and has there been a good take-up from county representatives here in the UK?
Yeah, we're looking at 65s, over 65s. That also comes under the remit of IMC, so the 60s committee look after the 65s as well. There's been a little bit of interest from other countries, so we've gone a little bit more formal, and I'm pleased to say that we now have regional teams, and Wales putting in a 65s team in a competition in the UK. What we'll be then doing, we'll put an advert out for an over 65s manager, same as we've got me and Paul Gelder looking after the Lions. We'll be looking at a 65s captain, and then in 2027, probably the first quarter, there will be not a World Cup, but there'll be a tournament held in either Sri Lanka or India, and we should have 8 countries.
Wow,
so but it's a natural progression now, because there's so much interest in getting into the 60s team. There's people at 60, 61 coming in, and it's more difficult for people to keep playing. And a lot of these people want to play at the highest level and for the country as you go forward. So by creating, in particular at 60s, creating that middle of the road, the 65s, it works. The Australians have got a team, they're ready to play us. Wales are going to have a team. It's exciting times, but also it helps with that progression. So people, when they've got to 60, 65 and just holding a place, somebody's on the verge of knocking them out, they can get into the 65s. It creates longevity and keeps people playing, because there's a long time between 60 and 70 to play for the over 70s.
There certainly is, Paul. Yeah, well, I wish you well on that. I'll just take you now to the England Lions. It's something that was sort of introduced last year in its formality as such. What a great success. I mean, you must be really proud in the work that Paul Gelder does, because those Lions played wonderfully well last summer, particularly in the matches against Australia. They've acquitted themselves exceptionally well, as you've alluded to, playing in India. What's the strategy for the Lions now? How do you see them progressing?
Well, the Lions we needed, because we've got so many people that have similar ability, and who gets in, who doesn't get in. We needed to create something because of the pool and the strength of players. The first year, let's be honest, it was probably, I probably shouldn't use these words, but a little bit like the care home for somebody who was just finishing England. They got in and we were playing in the Lions. Now the structure's totally different. So it's similar to the England setup, and it's a place where we can start to look at new people, new talent coming through to play. And we're in the, because of the strength in depth. You mentioned last year, but the Lions beat the West Indies 3-0. They beat the US 3-0.
They did, yeah.
And they came very close to beating Australia, and probably with hindsight and looking at it, they should have beaten Australia twice.
Yeah.
So that they're very strong. The good thing is that Wales they've played against Wales as well, beaten them, but Wales have got a Dragons team, their A team. So it's more cricket for them.
Yeah.
Scotland will play the Lions as well, so it helps to develop them. And also, just with this multi-country connection, we play against the UK Indians. So a lot of the Indian players live in the UK, so to go to India each time for trials or for games to be seen is difficult. And they can put out a fairly strong team in the UK, so the Lions play against the UK Indians. It was brilliant to get the first tour under the belt, and I was lucky enough to attend that. Paul was recovering from operation. And what a team spirit.
Yeah.
It really went well, and some of them are knocking on the door for the England team and for the World Cup. We're again, to help keep moving this seniors cricket forward, the Lions are going to go to Spain at the end of September, 2 games, and they're going to be playing a Spanish over 50s team.
Excellent.
We've also been in touch, and hopefully something will happen with Holland. So lots of opportunities are opening up, some quality players. And you're right, Paul and Jason do a fantastic job, work hand in hand with the rest of the committee to move things further forward.
Before we get to the end, I just want to briefly touch, and this is a topic I know is very close to your heart, but a lot of our listeners won't be aware of how things happen in terms of seniors cricket. Tell me about sponsorship.
Well, I think the first thing, Rash, is it's all self-funded.
Yeah.
So, there may be a myth out there that some people think we get ECB funding from elsewhere. We don't. So everything is self-funded, and it's like anything else. There are costs. So, we can't play the game without a ground. We can't play the game without umpires, scorers, a cricket tea, after-match food for hospitality. And that's just for starters. I said, in terms of creating the brand, you've got to work on your social media. Now, to actually kickstart social media when I came on board, we started working with Gloucestershire University. And we had a couple of graduates, a couple of students doing a sports journalism course who started to work with us. And boy, look at the results.
Fantastic.
If anybody can go back 4 years and look at what we were doing in the numbers compared to what we're doing now, dear me. Harrison tells me we had something like 4 million hits last summer over the social media channels.
Unbelievable.
We've also started working, I think this is very, very important, we started working with Gloucestershire University's television crew. So it's just like television crew turning up to a county ground or to a minor counties game. There's a television van. They've got 4 to 6 cameras. They've got some static ones. They've got some following the ball cameras. They've got a student in the van mixing the different bits together. And then importantly, and this is where you come in, young man, we have commentators. So we've created a product in terms of YouTube and screening the games. I believe we had 55 different countries watching us over the summer. And it just shows the reach, the breadth and depth and the reach. And we can't do it without. So, there's yourself. I mean, and I'll always remember when we met.
Yes.
When I met you and Mel when we were in an international schools competition at Hill House School. And believe it or not, I think I got you scoring.
You did.
Mel was umpiring and we got you scoring, and a friendship started from there. But the commentary has got better and better. So the whole product we've got around sponsorship has grown and grown and grown. But, to screen the games at the level we do, we need about 10,000 a year.
Yeah.
We've got to cover expenses for people and some costs. We've got to look at when we go on tour, there's tournament fees. Can we look at covering that? And also we do wherever we go, we'll always do something linked to a charity. So that we're giving something back to the community. So at this moment in time, what happens? All of us within the squads, including yourself, we all look for potential sponsors, and we now look at them when we call them sponsors. It's a partnership. So we're looking, what can we give back to them in the way of helping? So if you look at Stonehill, they've been an absolutely fantastic sponsor and helped to us over the years, because they've done the kit and sponsored all sorts of bits and pieces for us. We have Sport to Travel. They actually look after us when we're going on tours. We have NVP in terms of they provide the software and the licenses which allows us to do things. And look, it's like watching the IPL or watching a test match. We've got Rash commentating, and then we've got banners that pop up. There's a 4 or a 6 or a wicket, and then up comes Stonehill, or up comes Sport, or up comes Clean Clad. So we're in a position now where we can start to offer more. But look, it's hard work to get sponsors, and we're constantly looking and working with potential partners as we go further forward.
Excellent. Well, listen, if any of you out there fancy getting involved in sponsoring or being partners with the England seniors, just send us a line. The details are all in the show notes, and we'll put you on to Mr. Bradley, who can steer you in the right direction. Now, Paul, coming to the end. Now, we're going to be asking all our cricket playing and managing guests the same final 5 questions, But it's not the traditional 5 of things like your favourite ground, your toughest opponents, etc. So here are your final 5. Okay. Which part of your game has actually improved with age, even if no one believes you?
Well, that one's easy to answer. It definitely is. In-swing bowling, without a doubt. And whether it's on a grass wicket or whether it's artificial, I'm not sure what I'm doing. And somebody taught the old dog new tricks, but that ball goes more and more than ever used to. Excellent.
Number 2. If your cricketing style were a vintage item, what would it be and why?
Do you know, that's a really good question. A vintage item. Well, I think it's going to have to be a classic vinyl record from the 70s, because that's when I started really playing and I was pretty decent at it. So I guess, you know, when you look at these records compared to everything we've got now, what would we say? Smooth, timeless, and in reality, you listen to some of the classics, and I was thinking about All Right Now from Free, many of the Deep Purple. I used to like Peter Frampton, Slade, or things like Tubular Bells. But I guess looking at the record and how they've actually survived to come back into fashion, and you listen to DJs playing them. So it's not about a quick hit. It's about building an innings or building a legacy as you go further forward.
Excellent. Love that. Number 3. If you could give your younger self one cricketing slap, what would it be for?
It's when I got an award at presentation evening at Norton Cricket Club. We were playing Bishop Auckland, which is where my dad's side of the family came from, so I knew a lot of the people there. And a rarity had happened the week before. I'd got a 50 and I was promoted up the batting order. And I think this day I was batting number 6 or 7, and Lance Cairns was the pro for Bishop Auckland.
Goodness me.
And I went out to face Lance Cairns. So I was really confident. I got middle stump, I got into line. Lance Cairns came into ball, snick. Furby behind the stumps, caught the ball, they all appeal. Umpire goes, no ball. This is where I deserve a slap. Because I then turned round to the Norton players in the pavilion, made a little bit of a jeer. I turned back round and Lance Cairns was stood nose to nose with me. Didn't say a word. He went back to his mark and I thought, right, get your head down, Bradley. And I tell you what, all I heard was a fizz. My middle stump was out the ground. And I mean, to this day, as far as I'm concerned, I got a duck because the first one was a no ball. But the presentation night, I got an award for a double hairy. And I think I needed to give myself a slap after the first ball. I think I wound Cairns up.
Excellent. Do you want to be winding him up? What a player he was. Number 4, Paul. Which rule of cricket would you rewrite purely for the benefit of older players?
Well, it's a rule that I always used to use, but umpires never used to follow it. So I think now, 60s cricket, let's be honest, is a batsman's game.
Yeah.
So it's a tough game for the bowlers. So the new rule I'd put in place, as a bowler, when you actually go out and you'll say hello to the umpire, hi Rash, I only appeal when it's out. So in that base, the new rule would be when I appeal, it's out.
No, that's never coming in. And finally, Paul, complete this sentence. Being over 60 in cricket means?
It means an awful lot. It means that you're still active, you're still taking part in a sport that you love, making new friendships, you're still performing at the level you can, and you need to keep going for as long as you can.
Absolutely. Tremendous words, Paul, and wise words indeed. Paul, it's been a great pleasure speaking to you. I know you've got 1,001 things to do here at Loughborough, but thank you for taking the time out to speak to me today. Thank you.
Cheers, thanks, Rash.
Well, that's it for this episode, folks. Episode 1 done and dusted. I hope you enjoyed it. Many thanks to our special guest, the Maltese Falcon himself, Mr. Paul Bradley. And thank you to all the players who gave up their time to be interviewed at Loughborough. It's a big thank you to my colleague Harrison Burridge for all he does to promote England and the England Lions. Now, the episode notes list all the ways you can keep up to date on England over 60s cricket, with links to our various social media platforms. There's also the SpeakPipe link, which you can use free of charge to get in touch with us, to submit a question or get in touch with your observations and suggestions. Or you can email the show. A reminder that our email address is willowstowisdompodcast@gmail.com. We really do want you to be involved. It's a big thank you to Buzzsprout for hosting us and for the technical help and assistance of Audacity and Orphonics. Please like, share, subscribe and review the podcast, and you can find us via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox or via your usual podcast provider. Now, in our next episode, we'll be reviewing the squad game that is scheduled to take place on the 30th of April at Ticknall Cricket Club in Derbyshire. We'll be looking ahead to the first internationals of the season as England and the England Lions take on Scotland on the 14th and 15th of May in the North East. There'll be some more of your listener questions, and our very special guest next time will be the Yorkshire and England opening batter Nick Gaywood. I've been your host Rash Mahmood, and thank you all for listening to Willows to Wisdom, where age isn't a number, it's an advantage. So until next time, it's goodbye from me, and thank you.